And the first notice of motion is Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an alteration to the motion, which has been circulated to everyone. If people are happy, we go with the alteration.
Or is everyone content with the alteration? Yeah. No dissent, right? Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you.
Can I have a seconder, please? Okay,
thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Dog falling is one of the top local concerns of people in our community, and it came up time and time again on the doorstep during the recent local election campaign. And since then, I have been flooded by calls, emails, and even some disturbing images sent to me by residents as evidence to show just how big of a problem this has become and how much the streets of our city are being marred by dog waste. People are rightfully frustrated by this, and we know that the rates burden has taken its toll on people over the last couple of years. And I understand why people are giving politicians very clear instructions to get the basics right. So, Mayor, we also know that most dog owners are responsible. But people across Derry are rightfully frustrated by the small minority of those who do not seem to have care for their community or health and safety of their own neighbors. This is why we need a much stronger effort to promote responsible dog ownership and raise awareness of the environmental and public health risk associated with dog falling. And this is what the motion is going to be focused on, taking tangible actions to address this issue. And I want to record my thanks to the Dog Trust NI for meeting with me this week to discuss the impactful work that they do around this, and also just looking at what I have proposed, and I'm glad that they support my motion to. The two key actions within the motion that I'm proposing is asking Council to collaborate with Dog Trust NI and other organizations to conduct a comprehensive educational campaign on responsible dog ownership. And you will notice that I have not focused on statistics because I believe as elected representative, we should be focused on solutions rather than articulating the problems that we already know exist. Secondly, let us seek external funding to implement the We Are Watching You anti-dog falling campaign in residential areas alongside the Dog Trust NI Walk This Way campaign, which Council appears to have been involved with in previous years. We Are Watching You campaign has shown remarkable success, reducing dog falling by up to 75% in cities like Portsmouth and Manchester. Its effectiveness has been endorsed by Keep Rating Tidy, widely adopted by councils across England. I am aware of some suggestions around DNA testing, and I've done a small research to ask about this, but this has been advised against by Dog Trust NI and other dog trusts around UK. They have highlighted the success of public information and awareness campaigns, such as their Walk This Way campaign or We Are Watching You campaign, which there is enough evidence to show that it has an impact within our communities and within the cities. So as I said, as elected representatives, it is essential that we emphasize on practical and affordable solutions with a real positive impact. And I believe adopting these strategies and campaigns, we can eliminate this harmful behavior and enhance overall well-being of our community. So I hope everyone will support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Barr, for the motion. We're happy to support it. Myself, like Councillor Barr, you're just inundated with phone calls and emails about the fouling issue in the areas that we represent. And not only is it just not nice for people to have to come out their front door and look at, this is a health hazard to children as well. So we're happy to support the motion. I think it's a good idea to bring the Dog Trust in to present to the Health and Communities Committee. They would be models of good practice, and it's a reoccurring issue here, so it's really important that we find solutions so we're not talking about this in another 4 years' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. There is no doubt that dogfighting is a serious issue and one that we all need to work together on. Dogfighting is an issue across our whole council area. The serious effects of dogfighting on street cleanliness, hygiene and the potential risks associated with coming into contact with dogfighting needs no explanation, as we're all aware of the serious consequences associated with this. As a party, we acknowledge the issue but want to ensure that we recognise the many responsible dog owners who deal with their dogfighting in a responsible manner. Party has been actively requesting new dog fighting bins as well across all wards, and will continue to do so when there is a need in an area. We believe education is key and the penalties for those who are responsible. I also welcome the amendment for Dog Trust NI to present their work to the Health and Communities Committee, so we're happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Alderman Cook. Just before I bring in Alderman Hussey, I did see just before you raised your hand, there is an amendment being proposed by Alderman Kerrigan. So, Alderman Kerrigan, do you want to come in on that?
Mayor, very small amendment, and it's just in regard to I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth paragraph. It's responsible dog ownership, and I just would have liked including licensing. Because when I've looked at that, the motion, support the motion, but I don't see in it. I know it's emphasising microchipping and all the rest, but dog licensing. I mean, we just touching on it. We've had issues in regards to dogs, which people are claiming they're not their dogs, and which have attacked sheep in our own area there. As I say, local to myself and Alderman Hussey. So as I say, it's that case there whereby it's just to. Or as I say, responsible, including licensing. And that's the only thing, if that would be acceptable, Mayor.
Okay. Does anybody want to talk on the amendment?
Did you support it?
Or support it? Sorry, got a seconder, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Speaking to the entire motion, no problem with the amendment whatsoever. Can I thank Councillor Sinead Barr for bringing the motion. When I first seen the motion appearing on Facebook, Lillian knows I made contact with her because the initial way it looked to me was it was city. And I'm delighted to see it's not. It's city and district, because dogfighting is an issue throughout our council area. And there have been motions put before council before. There were motions in the old Strabane Council, and I'm nearly certain, I think, if you check the records, there were probably ones in the old Derry City Council. But the great advantage of this one is liaison with the Dogs Trust, with the experts who have a proven record, a track record in places like Manchester, Portsmouth. And it does say other locations, because one of the issues that you would want to expand with the Dogs Trust would be non-city locations. You know, we are watching you implies to me that the CCTV that exists around about the place would be used to track down irresponsible dog owners. And of course, when you move out into the rural areas, you don't have that sort of eyes on the, you know, eyes watching. You have people watching. So hopefully when, and I trust that the motion will be successful, that is an issue that we can look at with the Dogs Trust. Dog filing, not alone in urban areas, but throughout the rural areas as well. Congratulate again, Councillor Sinead Barr, and delighted to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Barr for bringing forward the motion. And look, dog fouling is a persistent problem. I feel like we've passed maybe 1 or 2 motions a year here in the chamber, and I think that reflects the seriousness of the issue. So I welcome the proposal to do more, and there's a number of very good suggestions in here to try and move it forward. I think awareness is key. And obviously there's the issue of cleanliness, and then there's the danger that it poses, dog fouling poses in particular to children that we've highlighted in the past. I feel like when we've been able to do the awareness campaigns, that's made a difference. And that's why the issue of the council's capacity to do it is key. And, you know, capacity needs funding. And I see the proposal in there for external funding, which I support. But again, you know, this is where when there's budget cuts and there's cuts hitting the council from Stormont, this adds up to the burden that the council faces, and dog fouling is one of them issues. So, you know, more funding coming from Stormont, less cuts coming from the Secretary of State would enhance our ability to sustain awareness campaigns. But, you know, I very much welcome the proposal and look forward to it being implemented.
Thank you. Sorry, did somebody up the top table, up at the back there, did somebody indicate to me? No, right, sorry, just no more speakers. So I think we're all in agreement with this motion. Is there anybody abstaining or voting against? No. Okay, if you want to sum up, Blowin, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for speaking very positively about the motion. And I welcome the amendment. I think it is a good amendment, and thank you for that. Obviously, everyone agrees that this is an issue, and as someone has just alluded here, education awareness is key, letting people know why, when they decide to have dogs, what they can do with it. And I think it is a very welcome support. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Councillor McDade did approach me yesterday. She did say that she was going to be late, and I had agreed to shuffle the motions around. So I'm going to go straight to Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I take the motion as read?
Point of order. We're taking a vote.
Does there have to be a vote?
Is unanimous? Okay.
Is that all right, folks? Yeah, I did ask if there was anybody against or abstaining, and I got no indication, so it just, it was unanimous. So where were we? A seconder for your motion? Okay, thank you. Go ahead now.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Donnelly, for seconding the motion. Look, I've been alarmed, as I'm sure others have been alarmed, about the reports from the Foyle Food Bank and other charities and other organisations that are attempting to assist people dealing with hardship. And there's been a lot of focus on the cost of living crisis over the last number of years. I think that there's less focus right now in the media, and perhaps there's a sense that we're moving out of the worst of the cost of living crisis. And this is where, you know, when you attend meetings that people from the Foyle Bank or from food banks speak at, they've been raising the alarm that they're overwhelmed by the level of demand on them. And as we head into the winter months right now, the pressures on a lot of families and households right across our district will mount. We still have no government here. We are still in a context where there's very little help for people. The autumn statement from the British government yesterday will not help the vast majority of people who need help. We're in a situation where, workers are not being given decent pay raises. We talked yesterday about our transport workers being offered a 0% pay raise. We'll have teachers going on strike. We've had education authority workers, many of whom who are low paid, going on strike. And there's many people who are struggling on inadequate benefits right across our district. So I think we need to continue to highlight the fact that many people have been plunged into hardship, and it's got worse over the last number of years. There's been a number of reports that I think really speak to the scale of the crisis. One in particular by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation about 4 million people living in destitution. Here, including 1 million children. There's been an increase in our own district and across the north of the number of children who are receiving food parcels. And this has all been documented. So the point of this motion is really to draw attention to the fact that the United Nations have also said that the levels of poverty that are maintained by the British government here are in violation of international laws. And that is shocking. And we can't allow that to become normalised. So I think that what I would like to propose and what's in the motion is that the council, through its mediums and platforms, point people in the direction of whatever help is available from organisations that are working in the district, be they charities or government. And we've done that before. I think that we need to scale it up again because we're going into the winter months and because of these, alarm bells that organisations that we've been working with have been raising. I think we want to appeal to the Board of Governors for our local schools to make sure they're doing everything possible to to lower the cost of going to school for children, because we know that that's been increasingly burdensome. And I think it would be very good if we could actually get a presentation here from the United Nations representative on extreme poverty. We should at least be aiming to shame the British government and point out that there are alternatives. So hopefully we will there'll be support for the motion today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Sean. Any comments?
Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment. In the fourth last paragraph, which states council supports all strikes, campaigns and actions taken to alleviate hardship and inequality. And I would propose an amendment that council supports all legal strikes, campaigns and actions taken to alleviate hardship and inequality.
Okay. Is that, Teresa, you can just tell me when it's up there. Sorry, I have a seconder for that. Okay, thank you.
Speak to the amendment.
Oh, yeah, I just thought it's up. Right. Have people got a chance to look at the amendment there? Yeah. So Councillor Jackson, you had indicated you wanted to come on. So do you want to speak to the amendment or both?
Well, I indicated to speak in relation to the original motion. The amendment's since been proposed. I had expected a bit of a rationale for the amendment and for the proposer of the amendment.
If you wish a rationale.
Well, he just proposed an amendment, but didn't speak to the amendment.
Sorry, that's just
Rationale.
bear with me. I'm sorry, that is my fault. I didn't go back to the proposer. Go ahead.
It would be illogical for a public body such as ourselves to support action which is not legal. And it's just to simply state that we support the strikes, campaigns, whatever, provided they're legal.
Councillor Jackson, are you ready to come on yet on that, or?
If you want simple civic disruption, you know.
Okay. And from our perspective, we fully support the motion that's in front of us. That was tabled in front of us today, and there's. I can't remember the last time we've met as a council where the cost of living hasn't been raised and highlighted, and it's something that we, as elected members, deal with and experience every single day when dealing with constituents. The work that's carried out within our community by organisations such as the Foyle Food Bank is invaluable, but it's a sad reflection of where we're at. The fact that we rely so heavily on the support from community organisations for citizens in this city and district, and particularly across the north, for people just to meet ends meet, and they simply survive. They rely on charity. They rely on the support of organisations such as the food bank and social supermarkets. And there's no denying that this is a direct result of policy that's coming from London. There is a drive towards inflicting poverty on people. There's a drive towards protecting the most rich, the elites, and there's a drive towards attacking public services and attacking those that are relying on benefits, or those that are on lower incomes. So any motion that we bring forward that highlights that and tries to bring a focus on those that are responsible for inflicting poverty, we fully welcome and support when they come before this chamber. In terms of the amendment, if people want, they bring amendments and they make cheap political points and that. It's not something, particularly on an issue as important as the cost of living crisis that we're currently going through. It's not something that we could support. We fully support the right to industrial action from all our workers. We support the trade union movements and all industrial actions that's carried out through engagement with trade unions. It's really disappointing that the amendment has come on to try and cause division and score cheap points. And in relation to this, we will not be supporting the amendment that's in front of us. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. I think a colleague of mine is actually going to speak more about the motion. But I just wanted to say, in regards to the events that happened yesterday and also today, I would like an opportunity to either under this motion or under a separate item in order to be able to discuss the issues. So I don't know whether you want me to speak now under Sean Harkin's motion, or do you want me to wait till later?
Alderman McMorris, that the place to have done it really would have been Chair's business. However, I'm going to bring you in under AOB, any other relative items, and that will be the last item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Okay. Alderman McCready.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. my goodness, for having an amendment brought forward in the chamber to encourage discussion, to strengthen the motion, to that to be seen as something from out of this planet is a bit obnoxious. I think we're all equals in this chamber, every single seat, regardless of your party. So if we contribute in a manner which you disagree with, then that's absolutely fine. You can disagree with it. And it doesn't remove the fact that people can amend things, go against things, abstain and vote for. So that's kind of my initial response to opening up a debate. My goodness, for having a difference of an opinion as a minority group in this council. I'm certainly not going to be shaken by it, or certainly my colleagues. But specifically on the motion, I would like to welcome the motion by Member Harkin. It's well put together in outline. It's got a good intent and the sentiments there. And to refocus our efforts within this council chamber in the lead up to Christmas, the cold weather, and all the other hardships that are going to be endured throughout the city and district. And if we are sending a letter to the Secretary of State and invite UN participation, it is to be welcomed. I'm happy to sit in this chamber and speak for 2 hours on the welfare of our children, irrespective whether they come from Craigan or new buildings. So relevant to me exactly what they prescribe to. So I'm glad this motion is done in this vein and in that manner. And I suppose when you think about it, Madam Mayor, we can point score politics in here all day long. It doesn't change the circumstances our children are found in, or those in hardship that are standing on the picket line, of which the majority of members in here did stand alongside and support in regards to the Education Authority workers, staff and cleaners, etc. So we do care, and in the Ulster Unionist Party, we do care also. That's why we're happy to support this motion, irrespective whether you agree or disagree with the amendment. Now, if you've got something to fear in this chamber of putting a word legal in front of something, well, my goodness, you've got a lot more to answer for than what I have to say here. Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. I support the motion.
Okay, Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought all the drama was yesterday, but I must have missed the memo. Quite a contribution there from Alderman McCready. And I want to make the point that I totally and absolutely respect everybody's right in this chamber to try and amend a motion. I would just ask that people respect our right to try not to allow that particular amendment to go through. And I think that's important. I'm going to speak on the amendment. I think it's Councillor Farrell will speak to the overall motion, Mayor, in due course, obviously with your permission. But in relation to the amendment, I think if we're all being honest and open about this, we know where and why that particular word is trying to be included at that particular paragraph. And I can sympathise with why it is. But I genuinely don't see that it's needed. The right to strike is a legal action. So by that nature, all strikes are legal. So therefore, I don't see why that word is required, other than to refer back to events which happened in this chamber yesterday, or to insinuate towards those events. And I welcome the fact that Alderman McMorris is and has got permission at any other business to have a conversation around that, and we look forward to it and will be fully engaged in it. But I don't think that doing that under a particular motion now is helpful, given the topic that particular motion is trying to address. Yeah. Actually, this conversation around this amendment, in my opinion, is taken away from the potential good that motion could do. And in that vein, I'm sorry, but we will not be supporting the amendment, but we will wholeheartedly and genuinely engage in the conversation at any other business, and we welcome the opportunity to do so.
You're just going over time there, but Councillor Harkin on the amendment, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't think that, well, I won't be supporting the amendment. I think in the motion, we talk about the United Nations saying that the British government is violating international law. And I think that that's what the focus should be on, the fact that the poverty levels that they're maintaining across our society that hit all communities are in violation of international law. So that's the legality that we should be talking about. You know, the workers have a right to strike, but some people are trying to criminalise the trade union movement. That's what the Tories are trying to do. And hypothetically, if desperate parents from new buildings in Craigan happen to go to the Secretary of State's office and do a sit-in calling for the the holiday hunger meals funding to be reinstated, I would fully support them. And I don't see how anybody in here could sit and tell them you shouldn't do that. And, you know, that is where we are right now, where there's a lot of families struggling. So, you know, the people have a right to make amendments, but I think that this isn't helpful to this issue.
I have Councillor Donnelly and then Councillor Farrell.
Good, Chair. Chair, there's a bit of semantics at work here, and there's different ways that you can interpret this. You know, you could look at that and go, Council supports all legal strikes, campaigns, and actions. It could only be the strikes that have to be legal. It leaves it open interpretation that the campaigns and actions can be illegal. But I don't think that if anybody that wants to do anything illegal needs to have an endorsement from this council. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's semantics. It reminds me of when the British Secretary of State said they had no selfish, strategic or economic interest. People could interpret that in different ways. So there's a bit of, you could say as long as the strike's legal, then you can carry out illegal campaigns and actions. But I think it's nonsense. I don't think that there's intentions of people in here in that context are going to go out and start doing illegal stuff. So I would be supporting.
Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Harkin for making the proposal. I'm going to speak in favour of it. There's a lot there, and there's nothing that we as a party disagree with whatsoever. But I'm just going to focus on the comments from the UN rapporteur on extreme poverty, and I had read the article in The Guardian and I thought somebody's going to bring a motion on this, and it was Councillor Harkin that did it. So what stuck out for me from his comments was that he said poverty in the UK, given it was in the top 5 economies in the world, was simply unacceptable, and that the support provided by universal credit was grossly insufficient. And, you know, every single full council or committee, we are discussing something to do with financial hardship, something to do with standards of living, something to do with income inequalities, because it is rife throughout our society, and especially so in this city and district. And I think we have to agree that the system is broken. You know, the supposed safety net that this Tory administration is meant to provide doesn't provide much safety at all. They are devoid of compassion. They are devoid of any concept of reality at all, and they are devoid of any understanding that normal people on the breadline face on a daily basis. You know, we've had, you know, the autumn statement yesterday. There's not much in it for normal people. There's just not. You know, their lives are not going to be transformed by Jeremy Hunt's announcements. And that, you know, hopefully the Tories are going to be out pretty soon, and we have a new government, a new approach to protecting the most vulnerable in society. But the support that is provided by the benefit system is simply not acceptable. So we support that motion. I don't know if the UN rapporteur will be available to attend this council, but if he does, he'll listen to one united voice from people across this chamber. So thank you, Councillor Harkin.
Okay, I have no more indicated speakers.
Mayor. Sorry, I'm on the chat book. Sorry, Mayor.
Keith, I did see your comment in the chat, but you were more or less just saying you're for the amendment. I didn't know you wanted to speak, but go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor. Thank you very much. Mayor, in regards to that, yes, Apologies, I didn't realise I typed that. Mayor, in regards to that, there's almost nine separate sections there in the motion, and in regards to the amendment, you know that we're splitting hairs over one word here that Alderman Hussey's proposing to put in, and I don't see that it makes that it's affecting it. There are the vast majority of the motion put forward by Councillor Harkin, again, we would agree with, and again, there's no issue with asking the UN Special Rapporteur to attend or to have should it be an online meeting or whatever it happens to be, and again, the issues in regards to low pay and inadequate benefits, and again, I concur with them, and it mightn't be often the case in regards to forced migration to universal credit. I would know a number of individuals there, particularly those from the farming background, and who would have been on receipt of tax credits, and effectively moving to universal credits, they're told to sell their farm, live off that, and whenever you have nothing left, you can come and might get away and pound out of universal credit. So it's not again, in the main of the motion, I would have a wee issue there in regards to the schools, in regards to the board of governors. I think any of us that have been dealing with our local schools will know that the school principals and the teams and the boards of governors are doing everything they can to try and sustain the schools, and I don't see that we can ask them to do any more. I have a wee issue there in regards to, I wouldn't just necessarily agree fully in regards to unregulated private rental costs. I don't think that's an issue that council should be getting involved in. But again, I had no issue in regards to Councillor Hussey adding a word in regards to legal strikes. But as I say, in the main, again, I feel that we can support the motion. But again, I don't see why there's a big issue here and why members feel that the one word that Alderman Hussey's added is going to change this motion, that they couldn't support that, as I say. But thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me on.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to take a vote now on the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Members, Alderman Cook,
Or
Alderman Guy, Alderman Hussey, Alderman Carrigan,
Or
Alderman McCready, Alderman McMorris, Alderman Wilkinson, Councillor Jason Barr, Councillor Lillian Barr, Councillor Boggs,
Neil.
Councillor Boyle,
Against.
Councillor Cusack,
Against.
Councillor Devine,
Neil.
Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Alex Duffy,
Neil.
Councillor Sandra Duffy, his apologies, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Fleming,
Neil.
Councillor Gallagher,
Against.
Councillor Harkin, Councillor Hart,
Neil.
Councillor Heaney,
Neil.
Councillor Hutton,
Neil.
Councillor Jackson,
Neil.
Councillor Leonard,
Neil.
Councillor Logue, Councillor McGinley, Councillor McHugh, Councillor Mooney, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Norris, Councillor O'Farrell, apologies, Councillor Riley,
Against.
Councillor Tierney, and Councillor Inides.
John, Councillor McHugh against. I'm not sure if you heard me or not.
I didn't get you there, but thank you very much for that. Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
$25 against, Mayor, and 6 for, so the amendment falls. Yes.
Right, the amendment falls. Do you want to?
Mayor, just declare I will be supporting the full motion.
Okay, yeah, now I'm going to take a vote on the substantive motion.
Let the substantive motion sum up before.
Yeah, that's, I know
Before the
that.
vote.
Well, before the vote. Sean, do you?
I don't need to sum up, Mayor. Thank you.
You don't need to sum up. Right, we'll go straight to the vote then, please.
Alderman Cook? Is it unanimous?
Sorry, just on behalf of the mayor, is anybody wishing to vote against? Any abstentions? Is it unanimous? Okay, thank you.
Folks, look, I need to take a recess myself for 5 minutes, just a wee comfort break. So give me 5 minutes, okay? back on track now, please. Yeah. Okay. Councillor McDade, do you want me to leave you? Do you get yourself settled or go on the next meeting, or are you ready now? The last, okay. Right. So, Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Chair. I take the motion as read. I'm happy to second. So last month in the Chamber, I mentioned the issues that were faced by women as they navigated the menopause transition and the challenges those symptoms present in their personal lives, their relationships, in the workplace, and the difficulties they encounter getting access to appropriate treatment options in our health service. Menopause is just part of that picture regarding women's health. The North is the only area across these islands that doesn't have a women's health strategy. The groundwork needs to commence now on developing a strategy so that our unique health needs and challenges are recognised and health outcomes for women and girls living here are improved. We need a strategy in place to reduce avoidable health inequalities for women across the course of their lives, ensuring that age, ethnicity, sexuality, income, disability, or where they live do not impact on their ability to easily access appropriate and timely services and treatments. There isn't enough focus being placed on women's specific health and wellbeing issues across the key stages of their lives, including menstrual health, contraception, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum support, pregnancy loss, menopause, and also the health impacts of violence against women and girls. Many health conditions affect women disproportionately. Things like autoimmune conditions, depression, IBS, osteoporosis, Alzheimer's disease. Yet women remain underrepresented in medical research and clinical trials, resulting in poor outcomes. One example is heart attacks. Women have a 50% higher chance of being misdiagnosed with a heart attack because the symptoms they present with don't fall into the classic symptoms associated with heart attacks in men. Researchers should be mandated to consider females in research because using men as a default leads to less effective treatments for women, and women experience adverse drug reactions nearly twice as often as men because of the research gap. We need healthcare for women that is holistic, inclusive, evidence-based and patient-centred. We need a coordinated and strategic approach that tackles the taboos that can stop women reaching out for help and that normalises the conversation around things like periods, fertility and menopause. One that improves access to services across both the reproductive and the post-reproductive years of women, including services for conditions like endometriosis and polycystic ovary syndrome. Figures from before COVID indicate that nearly 60% of women visited their GP more than 10 times before they got a diagnosis for endometriosis, taking on average 8.5 years to get that diagnosis. And that's for a condition that can cause chronic, debilitating pain for women on an ongoing basis. It should also be noted that the North is also the longest gynecological waiting list across these islands. Women need to feel listened to by their healthcare practitioners, and there needs to be better education and training for our healthcare professionals on women-specific health conditions and better access to relevant healthcare information and services across every stage of a woman's life. Employers also need to have a greater understanding of how women's health affects their experiences in the workplace so that they can remain productive and be supported in their working life. So I'm asking Council today to please support my call to write to the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Health, highlighting our concerns that there's a lack of strategic direction regarding women's health services and requesting that the groundwork commences immediately on the development of a women's health strategy. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Barr and then Alderman Cook.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Devine, for bringing this motion. It's actually a very timely, overdue motion to be brought in these chambers. I think we can all agree that women issues and particularly health issues has not been prioritized, and we have not had an opportunity really to have a consistent, effective and cohesive approach which the government should have implemented to ensure that grassroots voices have been heard. And you've rightly articulated the lack of research here and the lack of data that can be used. This is one of the issues that we face, not having women in positions of power. A women's health strategy is critical, one that fully considers that needs to be in place for women, what needs to be in place for women at various stages. You have articulated really well the issues of endometriosis, the issues of cancer, all health issues that women go through that becomes afterthought. And Mayor, we know that, for example, for caring responsibilities, including childcare and the lack of support available, take a significant mental health and physical toll on women's health. And indeed, the time constraint that this places on women make accessing healthcare even more challenging for women. And while healthcare professionals work around the clock, women are being failed by the lack of a transformation in our health service and long-standing political reluctance towards prioritizing women's health. And I appreciate that the Department of Health has begun doing some work to coordinate actions at the highest level and prioritizing women's health. But this is very little and too late, an approach which has not even which has not tackled persistent inequalities in healthcare. So we absolutely support this motion. And I just want to highlight that my colleague Sinead McLaughlin recently carried out a survey of women earlier this year and gathered more than 500 responses. And just to highlight one point, 90% of the women,
Councillor, well over time.
Yeah, 90% of the women felt that there is inadequate service provision available for the biggest healthcare issue affecting women, 90% of the women. So thank you so much, and we support the motion.
Okay, Alderman Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel that this is a very important motion, and I want to thank Councillor Devine for bringing it forward. As a chairperson for our local women's group, women's health issues are something that is talked about frequently. Statistics show that women tend to live longer than men, but spend more of their life in poor health, and that 4 out of 5 women have at times felt that the healthcare professionals are not listening to them. Starting the groundwork on a women's health strategy is vitally important, but we need to make sure that when it is fully implemented, it goes somewhere. We don't want a strategy that's just going to sit on a shelf somewhere. These issues are important to all women and girls, and through this process, it is extremely important that their voices are heard and used to create this strategy. A thorough consultation on this is essential to ensure that all the issues are taken into consideration. So we are happy to support this motion, and thanks again to Councillor Devine.
Okay, Alderman McCready and then Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Can I just welcome Member Devine's motion, which we wholly support, as it's another step forward in the emancipation of young girls and women of all ages in all ilks of society, and specifically in the health, is a core deficit. And it's a deficit which has been well articulated and put with the evidence put to this to members today. And it's stark and it's embarrassing, because I'm 50% of the population as a man, and yet half the planet are made up of females. So I think it's a duty on on males, no matter where you are in life, is to be an ally and support health of women and young girls and that emancipation. And to get over the stigma as men, to get over the awkwardness of periods, having the confidence as men to discuss these issues in partnership with females and to take into account all of those, some of them quite traumatic stages of their lives, from the periods at the beginning right through to menopause. And they're not just single standalone issues that have been mentioned. These compound both mental health and even their placement in the work. It's exceptionally difficult. So I wholeheartedly, and on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, we support the motion and the letter that goes to the Permanent Secretary. And I would add weight to that. I would ensure, within the letter, we push for funding to back up and deliver this strategy. Strategies on paper are precisely that. They're just words on a piece of paper. And we really needed to go that step forward to make a difference for young girls and women of all ages across society. And thanks very much for letting me speak on this. And I support this motion. Thanks for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Devine, for bringing the motion. I thought that your presentation and motivation was very, very comprehensive and outlined all the different issues that impact women's lives. And it is shameful, really, that we don't have a women's health strategy. And I think that the message from this motion is that women can't wait and that it has to be put at the forefront of what government does. Look, I think that the states that we have, north and south, have failed women for over 100 years. I think women north and south are demanding that changes. I think that when we build a new state for a new Ireland, that women's rights have to be at the centrepiece of a new constitution that transforms women's lives. And I think any work that we can do in the north right now to raise these issues that bring about change, we should push on it. So thank you again, Councillor Devine.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor, and like others, thank you to Councillor Devine for what is an extremely important motion. The second paragraph, for myself personally, was extremely revealing, and indeed Councillor Devine's explanation of the issues. I suppose if we look at Section 5 of the Northern Ireland Act, which requires our council to have due regard to the need to promote equality of opportunity, and one of the sections there between men and women, and that's exactly what has been asked for in this particular motion. And when you look at the disparity which has been outlined, I would go further to say there is the need for positive discrimination to restore a proper reflective balance within health strategy. So we'll be supporting the motion, Madam Mayor. One wee thing that I didn't note, and I had mentioned to Councillor Devine, I'm more or less inclined to say yes to the Gaelic motion as opposed to the English translation of it. Tuiscart Earn, which I literally translates as Northern Ireland, and I can accept that. Whereas in the English, it's referred to the north of Ireland, which is Tuiscart Nahern. As far as, forgive my pronunciation, but I thought I would reflect on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Donnelly.
Am I okay, Chair? And Councillor Alderman Hussey's just proved the point there that Irish language, there's no politics to it there. But look, I want to commend Councillor Devine for bringing this motion. There is a lot of inequality women face and girls face inequality throughout the whole spectrum, and the statistics that a lot of women have to leave employment, and given the circumstances that we all find ourselves in, and come from a city that there was a large part of the female population were the breadwinners in factories and that. I fully supportive of the motion, or any strategy that deals with improving, better access for women, and timely access to the support or services. So I'd like to thank Councillor Devine and fully support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, I have no other indicated speakers, so Councillor Devine, do you want to sum up?
Thanks, Mayor. Women's health is an area that I work in that I'm very passionate about, and it's a key priority for me. So thank you. I appreciate all of your support and your words of support today. I believe that focusing on women's health separately does not in any way diminish the importance of men's health. It simply recognises that we're different and that women and girls face a unique healthcare needs and challenges. And I think a women's healthcare strategy will help to improve in a targeted and effective way the outcomes for women. Focusing on awareness and education, health intervention, service delivery and research can help to maximise both the physical and the mental health of women at every age.
Thank you, Caroline. And I haven't heard any dissenting voices, so I'm taking we are unanimous in that vote. Yeah, thank you. Moving on now to come back to Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for putting me back a wee bit. I really appreciate it. I'll take the motion as read.
I'll second it.
So research done by the Trussell Trust found that approximately 345,000 people in Northern Ireland have experienced food insecurity in the last year. This means that they ran out of food, had to eat reduced meal size, had gone hungry or had lost weight due to a lack of money. We know that food poverty leads to a huge amount of physical and emotional problems, and it's been shown to reduce life expectancy, and I'm sure to no surprise to hear, a poor quality of life. A hungry child will find it harder to concentrate in school, which will impact on their educational opportunities. A hungry child may play up or have behavioural issues at school, which impacts on their school experience and ability to make friends. A hungry child is not in a level playing field with his or her peer that isn't experiencing food poverty. I've recently been speaking to my children about child's rights and what they are. And a basic right that every child has, according to the UN Convention, is the right to food, clothes and a safe place to live. Over 18% of children in our council areas are living in poverty. That's just not acceptable. I often mention about breakfast clubs. And my children go to a breakfast club most mornings in school, and there's normally the same number of kids there. Last year, there was a free week thanks to a donation from a parent, and I couldn't believe how many more children were there that week. I don't have the figures, but it was substantial. I couldn't believe that there were so many families that only used this service when it was free. It costed 50p per day, and there were families there that couldn't afford this. How can we live in a society that allows anyone to go hungry, let alone children? Tory austerity has made this worse, with the ever-increasing cost of living, basically no increase in pay, and the ever-tightening and worsening benefit system. Families are having to make more and more difficult decisions. It's not heat or eat anymore, it's can we even eat? And this is not just families that traditionally would struggle. This is across the board. We've heard numerous times on the radio about nurses and teachers having to turn to food banks. And a big issue is that a lot of people experiencing food insecurity don't know how to access the help or are too proud to ask for it. Of the 345,000 people I talked about earlier, 75% of them have not used any form of food aid. That means that there were almost 2,000 people going hungry, losing weight, missing meals because they couldn't afford it and they hadn't sought out or hadn't been offered the help. That's why I'm asking this council to back my proposal and work practically with me to launch a Right to Food campaign here in our city and district. The Right to Food campaign has 5 key elements. Universal free meals. I don't need to explain what that is. The government must state how much minimum wage and benefits is for food, as in they need to tell us what percentage they factored in for people to eat. There needs to be independent enforcement of legislation, so we need to embed the right to food into legislation and have an independent regulatory body which will hold the government to account. We need to have government-funded community kitchens throughout our city and district. These will provide meals on wheels, school holiday meals and cookery clubs. And we need to be doing everything at every level of government to ensure food security. So when we're making any decisions, we need to be making that decision based on how can we make sure that there's food security. We need to do everything we can to ensure nobody in our city and district is going hungry, and I look forward to working with you all to achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman McMorris.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor McDade for bringing this motion forward. I just want to say that Julie Middleton was going to speak in this motion, but unfortunately, due to circumstances, she wasn't able to come today. So I'll just read out her words that she would have said yesterday. The DUP will be offering our full support to this motion that recognises the deep issues that many local families are facing due to food poverty and the cost of living crisis. Unfortunately, these issues are not new issues in our council area, and many have been facing hardship for many years. I would like to take the opportunity to state that we need to move forward on a needs assessment when addressing food, whether that be in the council or government level, to ensure that those who are most vulnerable to food poverty are those that receive the help. Finally, I would like to recognise the many local organisations that are providing much needed help to those in need, including the Foyle Food Bank, our local churches, charities, social supermarkets, community centres, and the other community-focused organisations, to name but a few. If we are to find anything positive in this discussion, it is that so much care, compassion, and good work is carried out within our communities in a bid to help those most in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace.
Garmagat, agus Boyle Sinn Féin ar Daciach to Hortstitch, Catherine, and motion Shaw. I'd like to just say that Sinn Féin would like to support this motion. The Northwest is among the poorest when it comes to dietary health, with malnutrition and undernutrition leading to further problems down the line, such as tooth decay, obesity and diabetes. The government needs to take a more hands-on approach to put a stop to the vicious circle that begins with undernutrition, especially with kids in school. It breaks my heart to think about kids in school going hungry. You know, that they're not able to concentrate, that they're tired, that they're not able to concentrate, get their proper education, they end up in lower paid jobs, lower standards of living, and just the vicious circle just keeps going on. And we need Stormont to be back up and running so that we can offer these provisions, such as universal free school meals. The Right for Food for All campaign, along with the Essentials Guarantee that was supported in this council last month, will go a long way towards helping to alleviate the food poverty.
Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor McDade, for bringing the motion. And People Before Profit fully support it. I mean, look, we live in one of the richest societies on earth, and it's shocking that so many people don't have access to enough food day in, day out, especially children. And I think it's just disgraceful. So I think anything that we can do as a council, we should. And I know that there is a lot of people working very hard across our district to address the food crisis that exists. I think we should do whatever we can to put a spotlight on it, a constant spotlight on it, so that it becomes a quality action. I think that the demands that Councillor McDade have laid out are absolutely right. I do think it's going to have to be a campaign, and so whatever we can do as a council and we can do as a party, we'll fully back this. But thank you for bringing it forward.
Alderman McCready, I had your name down. Apologies. So go ahead.
Mayor, it's okay. Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you very much for the motion. We in the Ulster Unionist Party support it in its entirety. I think when you reflect, Madam Mayor, on 2023, or coming to the end of it, we're now sitting in council chamber discussing basic human rights to access to food. And I'm ashamed to say in our society we're an embarrassment because we're part of a system, whether that be local government and the whole society in itself. So, and I take some shame in that as well, because whenever we look at the next generation, then the duty of the generation that's gone before it, which includes us in this chamber, we should be doing everything in our power, within our remit, to make the next generation's journey better than ours. You know, that's inherent within the human evolutionary race, I suppose. So to have this conversation in 2023, it is shameful. And so all the points mentioned within this motion I concur with and I agree with. And equally, like we spoke on the Women's Health Strategy, this type of universal free school meals needs to, because technically they're not free, so it has to be paid for somewhere, and it should be paid for by the government. I think to send a child into school hungry is setting them up for failure. I mean, systemic failure in life, because these are the most important years as young people. They're huge sponges, and to send them into a learning environment and not have full bellies and be happy to go to school is almost criminal. And it is emotional, because I've got 3 kids, and they go to school, and to think, if I was to think they went to school without food in their bellies, it would draw me to tears. And the fact that that's happening across our city and district, it equally moves me. So a full endorsement to this motion and any other actions, or whether that's facilitative or anything we can do in council to change this and transform young people's lives, we buy into it. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak, and thank you for bringing the motion forward. Thanks.
Councillor Danley.
Chair, happy to support the motion. Hunger amongst children is on the rise. You check any statistics, and teachers are saying, when a child goes to school hungry, it can be easily distracted. It's not learning, it's thinking. It could display excessive tiredness. It could display disruptive behaviour. It's not doing what it's there for. It's thinking about, how am I going to get food? Mayor, yourself and myself, Councillor Boyle, Councillor Hutton were in Holy Child School only yesterday. We heard it firsthand from the principal, some of the problems regarding that. Alderman McMorris mentioned a lot of groups there, and I know you did mention our community groups. Schools in particular, like Holy Child's, do phenomenal work, great work, and they have to raise this money. They have to fundraise this money to ensure that children get free school meals. And when we just compare it to our politicians who get hugely subsidised meals in parliaments, who can claim expenses for meals, but yet we can allow children to go to school with hunger. So completely happy to support the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Danley. And just before I bring in Catherine to sum up, we were at that visit to Holy Child School yesterday, and listening to the principal and the teachers and what they do all year round, and I know all schools are working very hard to deal with this matter, which they shouldn't really have to be dealing with. But the principal is looking for ways to raise money in order for her to give a free dinner to all children, especially after Christmas, because she and her colleagues have recognised that that's a really, really lean time for many families. So, and I have no doubt that works probably going on in many other schools as well. So, Councillor McDade, do you want to sum up?
Thank you, and thank you to everybody that spoke. I appreciate the support, and I noticed a few of you have said that you are actually going to practically get involved, so I'm delighted to hear that. Councillor Harkin's right, it's a campaign. This isn't going to be something that we're going to pass in council and then it'll just magically happen. Hunger is a political choice, there's no doubt about it. Government can do something to stop this. So we need to be doing everything we can at local government level to achieve it here locally in Derry and Strabane. Working together, we can make Derry and Strabane a right to food city. There is a campaign there. There is guidance there for us. We just need to be taking every step we can out there. We'll be launching practical elements to it in the next few weeks. So I know that Councillor Harkin and Alderman McCready have both stated now on the record that they're going to definitely get involved. So I look forward to working with them at least. And I think within council, if we're making decisions, every decision we're taking, we're giving consideration to hunger. It's a good first step. But thank you very much, everyone, for speaking on it.
Again, thank you. And again, I'm going to take it that that's unanimous. I haven't heard no dissenting voices, so we'll move on. Thank you. So the next matters are open for information. The responses to motions, page 55 to 78. Anybody want to raise anything there? No, no. Oh. Councillor Jackson.
Mayor, very briefly, and it's touching on the last motion that was just passed. Now there was two motions in relation to food poverty that was passed by this council today. There's a response to a motion contained within our pack from the British Secretary of State. And it's in relation to food poverty or free school meals within our schools. And again, it just reiterates the challenges that exist. And within that letter, it does highlight the fact that if we're going to see real tangible change in relation to food poverty and have free school meals within our schools, we need an executive. So it's, and again, we've got it in front of us in black and white. We've passed motions around what we can do, but if we're going to see real tangible differences, and we're going to see an end, the schools principals needing to fundraise to provide meals for children. The people that are responsible for doing that are our local executive, and that's in front of us in black and white at this meeting today. And again, it's just reiterating the call, and hopefully the noises that we're hearing, that we're moving closer to an end of a boycott of the institutions by the DUP. Hopefully that comes to fruition, so we will see children going to school, receiving the subsistence that they desperately need to give them the best start in life. And it's just as a follow-on from the motions that we've just passed. Hopefully now that people we're going to start to see a bit of maturity coming into politics and recognising the real challenges that people are facing right across the north, particularly our children. So I just wanted to use this opportunity to highlight the fact that we desperately need our children, desperately need government, and we need government to work for us all. Thanks, Mayor.
No other comments? Sorry.
Sorry, Mayor, thank you. It's just in relation to the correspondence from the Education Authority on the Fir Trees Behavioural Support Unit. And I think just like Councillor Jackson has alluded to, I think their letter as well shows the complete firefighting that has gone on within the Education Authority and the Department for Education. It very clearly states how the issue around the Behavioural Support Unit for the young people with special educational needs, that issue came about because of the pressure that was put on another the accommodation that unit was using previously, and that Knockavo special needs school had to expand into another unit on their premises that was previously being used by the unit. So I'm not saying that anybody in the EA is putting these pressures onto people and moving people for the sake of it, but it just very clearly again highlights the complete firefighting that has gone on and having to take people out of one situation, putting them into a worse situation, to leave Knockavo in a situation which again doesn't fully address the problem that they're facing in terms of oversubscription of their pupils and everything else. So I think it would just be remiss not to say that we need an executive and assembly. We need a minister for education that is strategic plans in place to overcome the issues faced, particularly in relation to special educational needs places. So I just wanted to put that in the record, Mayor, and I would imagine this will not be the last time that we visit this particular issue in Strabane. Gurmugget.
Okay. Item 13, the ceiling list, pages 79 to 80. That's just for information. And now I'm going to move on to item 14 and any other relative items. And I'm going to bring in Alderman McMorris, who wants to raise a matter.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting me in. I'm not going to regurgitate all of the events that happened yesterday. Everybody is here, everybody witnessed it, and they know exactly what happened and how it happened. I want to make reference to a few just issues in relation to things that occurred since that event. I was on the radio this morning and along with another councillor in the chamber. And I was really, really disheartened and disappointed to hear that a councillor in this chamber was actually advocating for civil disobedience. Not only were they justifying the civil disobedience that happened yesterday, but they actually called for ratcheting up of civil disobedience. Now that makes me concerned that people was able to access this chamber yesterday. Now I don't know whether they had passes to get indoors or what happened. That's probably something that this council will have to investigate, and also the police will have to investigate. But I personally believe that them comments, they incite violence and they incite hatred. And I am really, really disappointed that, you know, that's kind of the comments that's coming out of this chamber. I'd also like to say, just on another note, not only like were we all intimidated and felt, you know, really threatened yesterday, and, you know, I personally just like, I can't explain how I felt yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So bad that, do you know what I mean? I felt that we had to leave the chamber. I felt that this wasn't a safe place for us to be. And I'm not sure it is a safe place even today or even going forward based on certain people's comments. Not only that, there, I would like to just highlight a post that was on Facebook. Now, there was a post initially, and I'm not going to go on word for word of what I said, but it was the Dairy to Palestine Facebook page, and they had put on a post about events that happened yesterday. But somebody under that post felt the need basically to make comments about a female alderman in this chamber. And I'm going to read you the comments that this person said. Now, I don't know whether this is a real person, a fictional person, or whatever, but the comments, and I can only say, like, and we're talking here about women's strategies and about the disadvantage of women. But the comments basically said, and it was a Paul Morgan, so I don't know if anybody knows him or anything, but there was comments about the silence and whatever, and somebody made reference that a female turned her back, and which I refute. But this Paul Morgan said, "Did anyone get a pic of the dog? Big Julie, she normally not out without a lead or collar." That is my colleague. Disgusting, misogynistic language. I can't tell you how appalled I am to read that about one of the nicest girls you'll ever meet in your life. She never would come in with negative comments or anything. She's just so positive and so bubbly. And to witness them, now we have all received comments and basically about numerous things, and I'm not going to go into them, but I wanted to highlight that because that's the kind of thing that's coming off the comments from yesterday's behaviour in here. Now, to incite that, and they basically, it just beggars belief. But anyway, you know, I was going to make comments in regards to the minute silence, and, you know, and other people have come to me and basically said, you know, it has never been a practice of this chamber to stand for a minute silence. And there was reference to say that nobody stood in regards to the Bloody Sunday or the Claudia victims or whatever. I wasn't here. I can't comment on that, but that's what I've been told. The chamber was asked to observe a minute silence, which we all did. We all observed that minute silence. Now, whether we stood or not stood, that has no bearing on the abuse and the tirade of threats and aggression that this chamber received. And I felt particularly, even though I felt threatened myself, but it was one alderman, his name was repeatedly called out into this chamber and he received very, very serious threats. Now, I personally have spoke to the police in the matter and I hope they do fully investigate it. And also the comments is made on Facebook. I'm just going to finish up, but I would hope and I appreciate everybody that's come towards us, in this chamber today to basically, give us their support and ask us if we were okay. And I really appreciate that. But I really hope that the people in this chamber today come out to condone this kind of action and certainly the misogynistic post that is being put out about our female colleague. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman McMorris. I suppose I would like to thank him, speaking for everybody here, when I say that certainly our thoughts are with Alderman Middleton today, that those comments are totally reckless and destructive and have no place in this society. Okay. Alderman McCready.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And I'm going to not speak about the content of yesterday because it was discussed in the manner in which it was. And I suppose just want to give reassurance to every member in here, whether you're sitting on the far right of this chamber with different political viewpoints or those at my extreme left, that this should be a safe working environment. No one councillor should be intimidated, threatened, or feel unwelcomed when they conduct their business. And the fact that that's how people felt yesterday is unacceptable. And so I'll be pursuing other matters through council officers offline to ensure that it keeps the integrity of the PSNI investigation open. And I wouldn't want to jeopardise or compromise officers in this manner, because I'm going to apologise to them on behalf of everybody here, well, certainly from ourselves, is that they were put in an unscrupulous position yesterday, irrespective of their politics. They're council officers, and we need to protect their working environment, whether they are the door person or the chief executive officer. But to have any emblem, irrespective of whether you agree or disagree, put behind them to photographs to be taken and to be screenshot for the rest of their time and their history online is inexcusable and unacceptable. And the second matter just goes back to the decisions have consequences. Our words have consequences physically in the real world, and evidently articulated by Member McMorris, this is deeply rattling for people who can't feel to come into work now because they feel threatened and vilified, both physically in the chamber and online. That's not a civilised democratic means through a local authority to conduct business, irrespective of what that business is. So I think there's a lot of answers within members and indeed the mayor's office and decisions taken yesterday. Because when I look at everything within our council policy, our standing orders of how we conduct business, yesterday should have been adjourned and we should have been dismissed until civil order was reinstated. But yesterday was shocking, Madam Mayor. I was personally disappointed in some of the actions and things that were taken in this chamber to put people, all members, in a position where there's uncertainty of who's got what door, who's behind what door, and who's coming from where. People with their faces covered. That is not an environment to conduct businesses. I wouldn't accept that in a private business or anywhere else. I wouldn't expect any workers to be in that. And I don't expect that here for members, irrespective of your politics. I think the conduct yesterday needs a serious review in slow time, in addition to the Police Service of Northern Ireland's investigation. But just to comfort my other members, you have my support to come in here free from intimidation and welcomed, irrespective of whether I agree or disagree with you. Madam Mayor, thanks for allowing me to speak on that matter.
Councillor Harkin, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, we had very serious discussions yesterday in the chamber. There's a genocide taking place right now in Gaza. And we've seen 15,000 people killed, 6,000 children. We have an Israeli state that is openly saying that they are starving the people of Gaza. We are seeing the Israeli state saying, ministers for that state saying that they are going to transfer.
Madam Mayor, point of order, please. This item was discussed yesterday.
What's the point of order, Mayor?
Point of order, this business was discussed and concluded and ratified. The conduct of yesterday, of which was brought up in the any other business, if it's a separate item, then it's separate to this. But we're not rehashing what was discussed yesterday.
Who gives you the right to make that decision?
1 minute. Well, I'm going to allow Councillor Harkin to continue. We are speaking about what happened yesterday, and we're also, I'm going to allow discussions about the content of what we were talking about yesterday to be heard here again today. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with that decision. As I was saying, there is a genocidal war taking place right now, and people around the world are unable to do anything else other than think about it, because you can watch this on TV. And yet we have governments now that are continuing to back this slaughter, and we have political parties in this chamber that are continuing to back this slaughter. And we had motions passed yesterday where this council made decisions about putting pressure on those governments, about standing in solidarity with people who are facing genocide. And what did I wake up to today? Complaints about the protest, and I consider it a complete and utter attempt to deflect away from the actual content of the discussion. Parties that cannot come in here and defend their political positions. And I think that the interpretation of civil disobedience, what are people expected to do when their government is backing the slaughter of innocent people? People should protest. People should organise sit-ins. People should blockade boats that are taking arms to Israel and stop them from doing it. And that's what's happening around the world right now. And I think that anybody that is not on the side of stopping this slaughter, of stopping the genocide of the Palestinian people, needs to reflect on their politics and what they're doing. Because when the Holocaust happened, and my partner's Jewish, as I spoke about yesterday, there were political parties that sat on their hands, ignored what was happening, pretended it wasn't happening, went along with the Nazi justifications for killing Jewish people, for slaughtering members of marginalised communities. And shamefully they did that. And we are now in a moment in history where we are watching on our televisions a genocidal war in Palestine that the Israeli state has been preparing the ground for decades, and that the dehumanization of the Palestinian people is allowing this. The quote is, we are dealing here with human animals. No water, no fuel, no electricity, no food for 2.3 million people. That's what we are talking about. And the discussion today about a protest at the council is a deflection away from the seriousness of that discussion. So I do not condone in any way misogynistic language used against anyone, even people who I would be disagreeing with. So I would say anybody that is using that kind of language is absolutely wrong. But the attempt to refocus away from the importance of the discussion yesterday, I completely disagree with. And I hope that there are mass protests all across this country. I hope that the protests against this slaughter actually end. I hope that there can be a resolution that lays the basis for a real peace among Jewish people, among Palestinians, among Muslims and Christians that live and share that space. But that's what was happening in this chamber. And that's why there was a protest, people calling on our council to do whatever we can to stop a slaughter of innocent people, of children. And I would like, so the language that's used about Palestinians, I mean, we need to reflect on that. Human animals, no water. Look, this is a crime against humanity, and we are in the midst of it right now. So I think we need to make sure that is what our focus is on. I don't want anybody to feel intimidated in this chamber. I didn't think it was intimidating yesterday. Were people impassioned? Absolutely. Is it an issue where people around the world feel very, very strongly? Absolutely. I hope that if we need to talk about the politics of this, so that's my position, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
I have quite a number of speakers, so Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. The points have already been made. There are procedural issues, etc., with regard to entry to the chamber, the numbers permitted in public spaces, unauthorised entry via a keyed entry on that side. Specifically with regard to the minute silence, Mayor, you asked for us to observe a minute silence, which was duly adhered to by all in the chamber. Custom and practice in the past on issues such as have already been highlighted, Bloody Sunday, Cloddy, has been that members observe that seated, which I, together with some other councillors and indeed the press representative, did. Subsequent to the silence, an elected member, and myself, was verbally abused and threatened. No action was taken. I'm concerned about that. I'm not intimidated. I'm concerned that it did happen. And despite what Councillor Harkin says, there will have been those who felt intimidated. Perhaps he didn't. Oh, surprise, surprise. He has talked on the subject of yesterday and about those who share that space. I make a proposal, if Councillor Harkin would accept the proposal, that we hear from someone who shares that space. And I would propose that we invite Musab Hassan Yusuf, who is the son of one of the founders of Hamas, to come and address this council, or indeed do so online. I make that proposal.
Well, you have made a proposal. You do need a seconder, but on this occasion, I'm preferring that if you want that to happen, that you a notice of motion. Thank you. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to discuss what happened yesterday in this chamber. And first and foremost, on behalf of the SDLP group, I want to send our support to the staff within the Guildhall and to the senior officers who were present in this chamber yesterday, who may or may not have felt intimidated by what was going on. I don't think that that's a healthy environment for anyone to be working in. A lot of what we were talking about yesterday, in my opinion, was incredibly important. And we had a very lengthy discussion around the issues, which I think lasted about 2.5 hours. This is a public building, and it is, I suppose, the seat of local government in this city and district. And it is only right that this public building, during council meetings, should be open to members of the public to come and see how business is conducted and what type of decisions their local representatives are taking on their behalf. So I have no issue around that. But where I do take issue is people's conduct whenever they're here. And that's, I think, where the problem lies. I think lots of the commentary since yesterday has overshadowed the discussion that we have had as elected representatives. I think it's overshadowed the genuine reason that some protesters were here, and that are those who were from the Derry IPSC committee. And I would like to also, and I think it's important to acknowledge that the representative who spoke also distanced herself from the banner and from some of the people who were here. I think that's an important thing to note in this whole discussion. I also can understand how and why some members felt threatened or intimidated, and I genuinely send my support to them, because it couldn't have been a nice place to be if that is the feeling that you have. As the leader of our group, one of the first things that I did was check in with our councillors to make sure that everyone was feeling comfortable with what was going on, and I suspect that others did the same. I know that some of the members in our group felt uncomfortable with what was happening, but we had to try and deal with it as it was unfolding. I would also, and I haven't seen the comments that Alderman McMorris read out, but I totally condemn them. I think anyone to make that comment about anyone, regardless of whatever crazy justification they have in their head to make those comments, I think it's absolutely disgusting that another human being would talk about another human being in that way. And I, on behalf of our group, again, send my solidarity with Alderman Middleton, and I hope that it's not too long before she's back in this chamber and we're able to do it in person, because I don't think anyone, regardless of whether I agree or disagree with them, and I spent 2.5 hours yesterday disagreeing with the DUP, respectfully disagreeing with the DUP and the UUP, but I absolutely disagree with those comments, and I don't think it's nice for anyone, and I can only imagine how Alderman Martin and her family felt when they found out or came across those comments. It could not have been nice, and that is completely and utterly wrong. I think we do have stuff that we need to look at within council, and Alderman Hussey touched on some of them, particularly in terms of how members of the public gained access through the side door. That is something that we need to look at. That, in many ways, is a breach of security, and that we need to look at that. But what we need to get back to, and I think this is where the negative aspect of that protest took place yesterday, there hasn't been one comment about BDS since yesterday, and all of the media attention. And that's what the protest was about. It was about trying to ensure that this council took quick action in implementing the BDS policy. And I haven't heard one single person talking about it since yesterday, sorry. And the events in this chamber have overshadowed the genuine reason for the protest. I'm not against people protesting at all. I think they have a right to do it, but it's how people act when they do it. And I think those who joined the protest, in my opinion, were ill-advised in how they done it. And I would have much preferred that they had have came to this chamber, sat and listened to the debate that was taking place, and then made an informed decision on people's position. But coming in with their mind already made up and the whole thing sprawling and the chaos, I think has just deflected from the BDS policy and the actions and the outcomes that organisation wanted to see coming from this council. Thank you, Mayor. And I genuinely send my support to anyone in this chamber, and particularly the staff who felt intimidated by the actions of some people on here yesterday. Thank you.
I don't want to limit what anybody is saying. I have quite a number of speakers, so if we can try and be concise. Alderman Cook.
Thanks, Mayor, for letting me in, and it won't be long either. So first and foremost as well, I want to let the staff know that we are here if anybody wants to talk to us about how they were made feel yesterday as well. Obviously all our colleagues in this council chamber as well. There's many questions that I feel that need answered, but I suppose maybe just right now is not the way, not for now to be answered. But there's one thing that I want to get across, and it's in regards to deflection. There is not one life that I feel is more important than any other. whether it be somebody from Palestine, Israel, or anywhere else. And that is the stance that we are taking. We do not stand with the killing of anybody, whether it be man, woman, or child. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my party colleagues when I say that there's absolutely no blood in our hands.
Thank you. Councillor Donnelly.
Thanks, Chair. It's hard to know where they start, but I want to start by saying that the comments, the misogynistic comments, are an absolute disgrace. It's all too common in this part of the world. I've called people out who have made comments, and I think we need to call that out when it's it's either racist, sectarian, and it's just wrong. There's no grey area in that. But what I'm seeing here is, I believe, is an attempt to become the victim. And it's coming from a party that's based, and a quick Google search will tell you the background to this party. And as a former member of Sinn Féin, and was at this Guildhall in the first council elections, and since that, when Sinn Féin took that decision to go into council, the DUP spat at, beat, bullied right throughout the 6 counties, in council chambers, outside council chambers. This idea, I have been at a funeral where a senior DUP elected rep was actually with a rental mob gloating. So I am not going to be lectured by unionism in here. And this is an attempt to take away the protest yesterday. I agree with, and I commend the protesters, and they were doing that as a result of our inability to carry out a corporate position. I have listened to councillors in here today who refuse to back a ceasefire, but then tell us that they would be unhappy or would have tears in their eyes if they thought their children were going to school hungry, but have no tears in their eyes for live scenes in Gaza where children are being blown to bits. They want to back women's health issues. They have no issues with people being destroyed, women being destroyed, young girls being destroyed. Won't support a ceasefire. Delayed calling for a ceasefire. They blame Hamas. Hamas isn't in the West Bank. Thousands of children who didn't vote for Hamas are killed. They didn't vote for Hamas, but they're being lumped in by the Israeli government, who are saying these people are non-human. And it's that same type of hatred that has been used against Catholics in this state since its inception. There's no other way to say this. You're not the victims. Stop playing the victim. And you see this, see the banner was in here yesterday that people are accusing it of being anti-Semitic. There was 2 Jews in here yesterday, probably only 2 Jews, and they were behind that banner, and they weren't hiding their faces.
Councillor, would just keep your voice just at a
if people are going to use that and say that it's anti-Semitic, they're saying it on behalf of 2 Jewish people who were behind that banner. I, as a Republican, used the phrase SSRUC. I've used that phrase when the British police force were cracking people's heads in this state. We done murals of SSRUC, and it isn't anti-Semitic. And that banner was drawing a comparison in a similar vein, that the actions of the Israelis are the same actions, the similarities of Nazis. We have done it as Republicans, while we're talking about the Maidstone, describing it as a concentration camp or Long Kesh. What we're seeing here is victimhood, and these are not the victims. Knock it in the head. You're completely wrong. You can't sit in here and call for support for women's rights and our children not going to school hungry and be complicit in what's happening in Israel. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Christopher.
Thank you, Mayor. And I will, a lot of what I was going to say has been said, but I'm just speaking on behalf of the party. We want to make it very clear that the topic and the real victims through the discussions of all yesterday, the people of Palestine, and that has to be clear, and that should have been the main message coming out of this chamber yesterday, was that the people of this city and district, through its representatives, were sending strong messages of solidarity and demonstrating our anger and frustration around the genocide that's underway in Gaza. Unfortunately, that isn't the message that came out of yesterday, and that is deeply frustrating. In relation to the actions, now I just want to be absolutely clear that we are completely opposed to any form of hatred, whether it's homophobic, racial, anti-Semitic, or misogynistic. There is absolutely no place in society for hatred of any kind. And when people are coming into this chamber, it should be a place where people feel free to make to express their views, whether it's from council members who are democratically elected. We may have opposing views, and people should feel free and comfortable to be having those debates and expressing the views of the people that they represent and the parties that they represent. There shouldn't be any form of intimidation whatsoever. And in relation to workers' rights, we've passed many motions in relation to protecting workers. Employees of council have their rights, have a right to have their rights respected and their views respected. So this place, it has a local seat of council. It has a public building where we should be welcoming people to be members of the public to be coming into this chamber and viewing and partaking in council business. But it should be a space where people feel comfortable, and there is no room for intimidation whatsoever. So we fully respect the right to protest, and in relation to the issue and the genocide that's ongoing in Gaza, people are rightly angry. People people have a right to protest if they feel that we could be doing more to bring an end to the slaughter of innocent civilians. But it needs to be done in a respectful way. And that's, if people felt intimidated yesterday, from our party's perspective, we feel that that's wrong. I'm delighted to see that people felt comfortable to come under this building today. And hopefully, as we move forward, we can come to some sort of arrangement where this space is welcoming for members, for officers, and for members of the public going forward. Because if we want government to work, it needs to be welcoming, it needs to be inclusive, and everybody should feel safe.
Thank you. I have two members online now, Councillor Gallagher and then Alderman Kerrigan. Councillor Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, for letting us in. I think that this council is and needs to be representative of the people of this district. Since its formation, we've had elections in 2014, 2019, and 2023. As part of those process, in 2016 and again in 2019, we passed motions in this chamber around BDS. And the reason we done that was to try and eradicate killings of children and civilians, to try and eradicate apartheid regime that's going on in Palestine. And we do know that BDS was successful in eradicating apartheid in South Africa. And that is the strength of BDS. What we seen yesterday was the anger of the people of this district at this council for not implementing its corporate position on BDS in the midst of thousands of children, women, men getting killed as we speak. So yes, it was quite vocal, but it was peaceful. And in my observations, I didn't feel that council staff in this, that were looking after the security of this building, felt that they were under threat at any time. There was engagement with the protesters, and in my look, that they were comfortable. When we talk, and previous members have been talking around the security of this chamber, remember, I have city members like, I at times felt uncomfortable when I believed that people were carrying guns in this chamber. And we have never had a debate about that in this chamber, but it just seemed to go unnoticed or unchallenged. So when we talk about security and people feel under threat, we need to pull all the issues out. And if we're looking at anything around security, that should be included. But as far as yesterday is concerned, people came, they made their protest, and they left very quickly once they had made their protest. So I think that is very much to be welcomed. The vast majority of the discipline of the people that was protesting had. Others who were very vocal have probably lost relatives or fear of losing relatives as we speak. So I think that under the circumstances, that anger is justifiable. Thank you.
Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in. And I do thank you for allowing this topic to be discussed. And again, I do think there are some members there who have been measured in their comments. And again, the issue is twofold there, as regards, as Alderman McMorris has raised, the disgraceful comments that have been made online in regards to a fellow alderman there. And as again, the comments which were issued as well. I mean, I had just left the chamber at that stage, but I was signed in and was able to hear and was able to view the footage also. But in regards to comments and issues made against Alderman Hussey in particular as well, I don't think it's not right. And no one has, as members have spoken there, no one can say how someone else feels. And I think the comments made by Councillor Donnelly are a disgrace. And again, Councillor Harkin's comments, you know, but again, I don't expect any different from them. But we are all democratically elected to this chamber, and everyone has a right to feel safe and secure in their working environment. And again, that goes for the elected members, but also for council staff. And again, comments have been made in regards to the banner held up at the head of the chamber. You know, it's not appropriate. There are passions on every subject, but it's not appropriate comments that have been made there. And Mayor, further to that, I do feel that there are questions to be asked. It has already been raised again about access, but there's a public gallery. We had a debate for a substantial period of time earlier in the meeting, and those individuals weren't present then to come and hear that debate. But yet they were then just after that and causing the issues. And again, faces covered, it's not appropriate. You know, if you're willing to come and stand in the public gallery, you know, at least come and show your face to see who you are and raise your point in the appropriate manner. So, Mayor, I do feel it's we have a couple of issues there. There are plenty of issues that have to be dealt with, but there's one in particular is in regards to you know, that staff are and members are given that opportunity now, if they don't feel comfortable coming back into the chamber, that we will have to keep on board the online facility for members. Should that be for full council committees, and should that go down the line to working groups and task and finish groups or whatever else, I still think that's going to have to be offered more so, because there may well be members that just don't feel comfortable coming back into the chamber. So, Mayor, that's in regards to a few points. But again, everyone that comes in with their certain topic, whichever it is, they've got to be respected, and there's rules and guidance for it. And the actions yesterday were inappropriate, and that's it. It's not necessarily the topic, and yes, people were passionate, but it's the actions taken which were inappropriate. And again, the online comments since have been a disgrace. But thank you very much, Mayor, for allowing me in.
Okay, thank you. I have, sorry, Alderman Gay, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor. State's been says already, but basically what happened on here yesterday was set out probably to be a peaceful protest. Probably got out of hand whenever abuse was being shouted at colleagues, whether they stood or not. I think it's all been mentioned before about minute silences on here and whether members decide to choose to stand or not. Most of us remain seated when they were always carried out before. Doesn't support the BDS movement. That's no shock to the people that do support it. But we have debated it and we have listened to what people said. Just like we listened yesterday to what she had to say whenever she came in. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the girl. Hutton. Yeah, Catherine Hutton. When she basically, we sat and we listened to what she had to say. There was no issue there. We would have brought her on the committee to hear what she had to say. But things get out of hand when people come in and feel that they have to keep their fists covered. Why? What do they plan to do that they have to keep their fists covered? You know, they're coming on here, they're listening, they stand, they make their protest. Face covered, you basically make people feel uncomfortable. You know, there's no need for it. We heard many people complaining about what went on in a court in Belfast, and quite rightly so. They were put out. They should have been put out the minute that basically their faces were covered and they refused to move them. It was the same man here. If they can't remove their face coverings, they should have been removed from the public gallery and let those that wanted to protest in peace remain in the building. We've no problem, no issues with peaceful protest at all. But I just want to point this out. I know the Ulster Unionist Party and the DUP do not support the murders of anyone, anywhere in the world, especially children. So anybody to even claim that is just shocking. And it makes it even worse when an elected member to this council is making claims like that on live radio this morning. We've all seen what happened in England. The MP, Joe Cox, and all our MPs stabbed to death because of our views, our political views. We all have different political views, but we have to respect each other that we're all different. And we can debate that through these channels in this here building. But they come out and make accusations which are completely untrue and can cause people to react to those people who them accusations are being made against. Is all wrong. And we must treat all our elected reps, councillors, colleagues, everything with respect. We may not agree with what they say, but people listen to what we say, and it can rub people up the wrong way. During the Troubles, we all know what happened. It put people out in the streets, it put people in jail. And look what happened there. It caused murders, thousands of murders. Do we really want to go back to that? Just because, and an issue that's not even happening on our doorstep. I know people feel strongly about the whole Middle Eastern, the whole Israeli-Palestine war that's going on. It's been going on for years. I have to admit that I do not understand it fully. It's not on our doorstep. So let's debate it properly. I may not agree with some things that are in motions. I may agree with some that are in motions. But when they're all lumped together and you don't agree with one or two things, then you tend not to vote for that motion. It doesn't mean that we don't want to see peace. Of course we do. I don't want to see anybody killed anywhere. I would love these two to sort their problems out and live in peace the rest of their lives. I don't know if that'll ever happen. It's probably been on too long now. But you have to still remain hopeful, and you have to open channels. We wanted to push out an Israeli ambassador out of Dublin. Why? Keep the man there. Involve him in the conversations. Basically see how things can work. They basically, bring it round and see what he has to say and how they can bring peace. These are things that we can all work at. My colleague brought forward the motion about Hamas. Nobody in this here chamber supported it. Yet it was only directed at Hamas. So we're all different here. But let's agree to disagree. Not put a target on anybody's back. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to conclude this meeting now. So that's it. Meeting over. Thank you.